What's up, everybody? Again, it's Wednesday morning. Man, I hope you're having a great week. It's midweek, and so today we get ready for our midweek teaching session, our teaching video. Also, man, get ready for Sunday morning, our Sunday morning online experience. It's going to be real cool. It's going to be very helpful, very gracious. It's going to help you out during this time. You're going to get a lot out of it. But today, we continue with our Wednesday morning Bible study series on the heart. You know, a lot of times you and I really work hard to show people only what we want them to see. We work really hard to monitor and check our visible outward behavior that other people can see and hear because we want them to think a certain way about us. But like we've talked about over the past couple of weeks, you and I rarely take it a step further and work on the real reason behind why we do what we do and why we say what we say and why we react the way that we react and why we act the way that we act. And that's because of our heart. And so Jesus always invites his disciples, Jesus always invites his followers to take it one step further. In fact, when Jesus was talking to the religious leaders when he was here on earth alive and he was walking this earth with his disciples, at one time he told them, "You're so masterful at religion that you clean up the outside and you make the outside of the bowl look very beautiful, but on the inside it's full of filth." He says on the outside, it's like that you look really godly and religious, but on the inside, it's like people are stepping over your grave and it's filled with dead men's bones. And so he says to the religious leaders, you're working really hard to show people on the outside that you're godly, to show people on the outside that you're wise, to appear in front of other people that you have your life in check, but you really need to take it one step further because the reason why you have these sins in your life is because you haven't taken it one step further and dealt with your heart. And so over the past few weeks, we've been talking about our heart, and chances are this virus shutdown thing, this quarantine time has probably exposed a lot of anger on the inside of us, and so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about our anger. Now, here's a question for you. Have you ever gotten angry? And has your anger ever come just bursting out of you and your anger caused you to act out in front of others in a way that you either immediately or eventually regret it? That's true for all of us. There have been times in our life, maybe in the past or maybe recently, where we've gotten anger. Anger came rushing out of us in front of others in a way to where we immediately or eventually became very guilty about it and we felt a lot of regret. That's what anger does. Anger always leads to regret. Anytime you give into the urge and the feeling and the temptation of anger, it's always going to lead you somewhere, and that somewhere is always a place of deep guilt and deep regret. And we all experience anger and rage from time to time in our life. But rage, just rage, any kind of rage, typical rage, road rage, temper tantrum rage, everyday rage, relationship rage, all rage is this, and remember this today. Rage is angry behaviors exhibited by you. That's what rage is. But we usually try to filter it, and we usually try to make our anger out to be something else because we don't want people to think that our heart is growing cold and full of anger. And so we usually try to cover it up by saying our anger is not anger, it's just frustration. This situation is frustrating to me. I'm sorry. That's why I acted the way that I acted. This relationship, this situation in the relationship became frustrating to me. I'm sorry. That's the way I acted the way that I acted. This circumstance, this storm, whatever I'm going through, it's just frustrating. And that's why I had this lash out and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, it's not frustration. You're just trying to cover it up. That's what people call their anger when they try to filter it out and only show people on the outside what they want them to see. And so no one wants anger to control you, and you do not want anger to control other people because, and remember this today, our frustration is simply anger with a filter on it. And so the reason why no one in your life wants anger to control you, and the reason why you don't want anger to control anyone else in your life is because once it comes out of you or once it comes out of them, it's always destructive. It always hurts the relationship. It always hurts trust. It always hurts someone's self-esteem. It always destroys. And so no one in your life wants anger to control you, just like you don't want the other people in your life to be controlled by their anger. Now, let's talk about our anger for a few moments. You and I probably all have a very complicated relationship with anger. I know that I do. In fact, I am preaching to myself today. A lot of times people say, hey, Pastor Tony, the things that you share speaks to my heart. It's like you're talking directly to me. Have you been checking my mail? Do you have a video camera in our house? Do you listen to our conversations? And I always tell people, no, man, I don't check your mail and I'm not spying on you. The reason why what I say hits you in your heart and you feel like I'm talking directly to you, and I tell people this all the time, it's because I'm talking directly to me. Like I am preaching to me today. I have a very complicated relationship with anger. So if I'm going through it, chances are many of you are going through it also. And so basically what we do is we're just talking about what we're going through and we're asking God for wisdom. But we all have a very complicated relationship with anger. And if you were to describe your relationship with anger, if you were to describe it today, what category would you fall under? If you were to say, hey, this is kind of how I deal with anger. This is my relationship with anger. Would you say, and remember this, would you shout your anger out or do you shut it down? So does it fall under what category? When you get angry and your anger comes out of you, do you shout it out or do you shut it down? Or we could ask it this way. Does your anger typically come rushing out of you like a faucet when you feel it rising up in you? Or do you typically just clam up and shut down and walk away and you don't communicate at all? The problem is, in both cases, whether your anger comes rushing out of you or whether you shut it down, the people in your life that are closest to you are the victims of your anger now. They're either the victims of your temper tantrum and your rage, or they're the victims of your loud silence. So either you shout it out or you shut it down. In either case, the other people in your life are going to suffer because they're going to be the victims of how you deal with your anger. Here's another question, and remember this today. What or who currently triggers the strongest feelings of anger inside of you? Is it a family member? Is it a spouse? Is it someone that you're dating? Is it an ex? Is it a coworker? Is it a boss? Is it a manager? Is it a coach? Is it a teacher? Is it a neighbor? Is it a situation or a circumstance? Is it a storm? Is it a virus? Is it a shutdown? Is it a quarantine? What causes your anger to really rise up within you? Do you know what a big part of the problem is whenever you or someone that you know gets angry and they let that anger control them? Ready or not, here it is. And do not forget this today. Remember this today. The source of most of our anger is not getting what we want when we want it. See, you're not angry today because of outside forces and outside storms and outside trials or people tempting your anger. That's not why you're angry. The reason why most of us get angry today is because we don't get what we want when we want it. At work, we get angry. In the doctor's office, we get angry. On the interstate, we get angry. Why? Because we don't get what we want when we want it. In a relationship, in a marriage, we get angry. In our circumstances, in our daily life, we get angry. Why? Because we don't get what we want when we want it. Now, anytime I feel angry or you feel angry, remember this today. Our emotions tell us that it's always 100% someone else's fault. Have you ever bought into that lie? Have you ever got really angry and then you started thinking, man, that's not my fault. That's their fault. That's not my fault. They shouldn't have said that to me. That's not my fault. I couldn't control this storm. I couldn't control this circumstance. That's not my fault. It's the virus's fault. It's China's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the mayor's fault. It's the governor's fault. It's the president's fault. It's Kroger's fault. It's my dog's fault. It's the insurance company's fault. It's the doctor's fault. It's my spouse's fault. It's my teacher's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my coworker's fault. It's my emotions' fault. Anger always places the blame off of you and onto something or someone else. But James, the brother of Jesus, had something much, much different to say about anger and how we deal with our anger and how we can, if we take a step back, we can see how to deal with it in humility and how anger no longer has to have control over our heart or over our reactions. And so notice today in James chapter 3, and we'll be reading in verses 13 through 18 out of the New Living Translation. Notice what James, the half-brother of Jesus, says. If you're wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you're bitterly jealous and there is selfish ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying, for jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It's also peace-loving. It is gentle at times. When you live with God's wisdom, you want peace with all people above anything. It loves peace. It is gentle at all times and willing to yield to others. When you have God's wisdom in your life, you are willing to yield to others. When you have God's peace and God's wisdom in your life, you are willing to yield to others. Instead of posting "don't tread on me" memes every 5 minutes on your Facebook. This wisdom is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. Now, there's a few truths, a few things that really stick out about this passage. The first thing is this: when someone seeks Jesus, humility is a very noticeable and evident part of their life. And so if someone that you meet says they're a Christian and they love Jesus and they're seeking Jesus, then you should absolutely always see humility in their life and controlling their life. So if you say that you love Jesus, they should see it in you and they should see humility controlling you. Second thing is this: jealousy, selfish ambition, bragging, and lying are destructive and harmful to you, but also to the other people around you. The third thing that sticks out about this passage is this: jealousy and selfishness are the sources of all kinds of anger and all kinds of divisions and all kinds of fights and all kinds of jealousies and disruptions in your life. And then the last thing about this passage was this: when someone is actively seeking God's wisdom, then that person is growing in mercy, purity, kindness, fairness, unity, and sincerity. That's what this passage literally says. Which means is this: there's a lot of people on social media right now who's not growing in God's wisdom, are they? You say, "Tony, why? I don't see a lot of mercy, don't see a lot of kindness, don't see a lot of fairness, don't see a lot of unity." You know what that means? It means there's a lot of people saying, "Man, I love God." Do you? Do you love him enough to get filled with this kind of wisdom so you can be kinder, nicer, more unified, all that kind of jazz? Got to be filled with his wisdom. Let's move on. We move on to James chapter 4, verses 1 through 3 out of the New Living Translation. This is so key. What is causing the quarrels and the fights among you? Don't they come from the evil desires that are at war within you, within your heart? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it, and so you fight and wage war to take it away from them, yet you don't have what you want because you won't ask God for it. And when you do, James says, you don't get it because you ask with the wrong motives. And so again, notice a few simple points about this passage. The first thing is this: anger, conflict, jealousy, selfishness, quarrels, and so on. It all starts with evil desires within you. You ever heard someone say, "Man, the devil's attacking, I'm having a tough time, the devil's attacking"? He's probably not. He's not omnipresent like God. He can't be everywhere at once. He's probably not camped out in Louisiana at all, probably. What's really going on is there's some desires inside of you that you're letting get the best of you. They're created inside of you because they come from you. And so anger comes out of you, not because of what happened to you. It's what's happening on the inside of you. But what's in you? So you see, what they did to you or what happened to you did not make you angry. There's a better explanation. You got angry because you didn't get what you wanted when you wanted from them. That's why you got angry. Second thing is this: what makes you angry and jealous and conflict with yourself and others, according to James, is us simply not getting what we want. That's what causes us to live in conflict and anger with ourselves and with other people. We want what we don't have. We get jealous of what other people have that we can't get. We want a circumstance to meet our selfish desires first. We want a marriage to meet our selfish desires first. We want a relationship. We want a job. We want favoritism. We want a boss. We want friends to meet our selfish desires first. And when that doesn't happen and we don't get what we want, When we want it, we get angry. And so remember this today. Remember, this is so key. Our anger is usually created by a process of listening to selfish motives in our heart. In our heart, we all have motives that are good and motives that are selfish. And anger starts to grow in your life, and it's created by the process of you constantly listening, not to wisdom and humility in your heart, but listening to selfishness in your heart, selfish, self-centered motives. I'm angry because I wanted this, and I didn't get what I wanted when I wanted it. And so in light of all those challenges, let me give you just 3 real-life applications to take home with you today, and I really think these are going to be helpful to you. It'll help you live this out this week. The first one is this. When anger emerges, pause. Just pause. Slow down. That's why the book of James says this. In relationship conflict, you and I should be very quick to listen and slow to speak. Because when anger emerges and you're emotional, you don't have clarity. You always lack clarity when you're highly emotional. So when anger emerges, pause. Wisdom says when you're angry, don't speak, don't act, don't lash out, don't make a major decision, don't argue, don't accuse. I'll never forgive. I'll never do this again. Don't make those types of decisions. When you get angry, pause. Because if you don't and you speak or act, it's going to be a very regrettable word or a very regrettable decision. Why? Because if you do act out of anger, you will absolutely regret it. So wisdom always says that when you feel angry, just pause, calm down, and let wisdom tell you how to proceed. But that's going to take time. The second thing is this. When anger emerges, you're going to have to own your part of it because you do have a part in it. Always ask yourself this question when you're angry with someone else. Is this feeling of anger that I'm having because something isn't going my way? Do I have this feeling of anger because something isn't going my way in the marriage, in the relationship, with this situation, with that situation, with this need, with that need, with this issue, with that issue? Am I really angry because I'm not getting my way? Or is it because I'm opinionated and I'm controlling and other people, when they disagree with me, just makes me mad? That's selfishness too. Or am I angry because I'm selfish? Your anger starts within you, not with what's happening to you. So you're going to have to own your part of it. Your anger comes from within you. And the third and last thing is this. If you're still with me, so I'm still with you. All right. Number 3, when anger emerges, acknowledge that it's okay to not get your way. In this life, because we all have other people in our life, then life can't always be about us. I tell married couples all the time, it's not your life, it's y'all's life. It's y'all. When you bring someone else into your life, it's not your life anymore. Now it's y'all's life. And so we can't always be selfish because our life isn't always about us. And the more you acknowledge that it's okay sometimes to not get your way, by the way, it's okay if you didn't get your way last week. It's okay if you didn't get your way yesterday. You got plenty of time. Don't get so angry. So the more you acknowledge that it's okay sometimes to not get your way, you'll start to move away from being selfish and self-centered, and you'll start to let wisdom and humility rule your heart. Excuse me, I just burped. Anyway, when we first started our church, that was back in 2007. And when we first started our church, we were setting up and tearing down every week at the Cinemark Theater at the mall. We didn't have a permanent location. We didn't have office space. All we had was a big 16-foot trailer that we had to load up every Sunday morning, and we had to drive it to the theater at 7 o'clock and load it and set it up, and then when it was over, tear it down and set it back up in the trailer and take off and do it again the next week. So anytime I had a counseling session, because we didn't have office space, I usually had to go to the couple's house or the people's house and talk to them there, maybe at Starbucks or something like that. And there was this one couple who came to the church for years before they eventually got divorced and moved away. So I guess my counseling wasn't all that good for them, I guess. But anyway, I would always go to their house and try to talk to them. And every time I would go to their house, it would turn into a screaming fight. And I was always the mediator in the middle. So I'd always sit on the couch. She would sit on one side, he would sit on the recliner on the other side, and halfway through it, man, they just couldn't contain their emotions anymore, and they would just start screaming and yelling, pointing at each other. I mean, veins popping, turning red in the face. It was awful, and here I am just sitting there like this, man, just like, oh, Lord, what in the world? What do I say, you know? And it would always turn into, eventually, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. And so one of the last times I went over there to counsel with them before they eventually split up and moved away, they started that again. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. And so I finally said, hey, stop. What's your fault and what's your fault? What's his fault and what's her fault? And this is what they both eventually ended up saying. I'm so angry and I'm so mad because it's that person's fault because this person wasn't getting their way. In each case, this person was saying it was that person's fault because this person just wasn't getting their way. Most of the time when you and I get angry, it's a selfishness problem. And it's because we're not getting our way. So, next time you get angry, the next time anger emerges, pause and own your part of it too. And admit that sometimes it's okay to forgive. It's okay to have mercy. It's okay to be kind. It's okay to not get your way. And it's okay to own your part of it. Hope this has helped you out today. Hope this has given you a measure and a filter to kind of restrain your anger and give in to God's wisdom and God's humility. Remember, the people around us this week should absolutely see it's evident that we're seeking God because humility and kindness and wisdom is growing and evident in our life. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. Hope to see you Sunday morning. Have a great week.
We want to thank you so much for joining us for today's midweek message. If you found this message encouraging, or if you have a prayer request, make sure you comment that down below. If you want to further partner with the church, there's 4 simple ways to do so. The first way is you can give online. You can visit watersedgegathering.com and click on giving. From there, you'll be able to e-give, our online giving platform. Or you can text to give. You can text the word give to 337-223-9003. From there, you can enter your dollar amount and then you'll be led to on-screen instructions. Or you can give through the app. Make sure you search your app store for the church app, and within the church app, search Waters Edge Gathering. From there, you can give your tithes and offerings from within the church app. Or you can simply give through the mail. You can do so by mailing Waters Edge Gathering at P.O. Box 572, Lake Charles, Louisiana 70602, or Waters Edge Gathering, 2760 Power Center Parkway, Lake Charles, Louisiana 70607. I want to thank you guys so much. We'll see you this Sunday for our online experience. We love you guys.
Oh,